everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff on book Twitter lately about reviewers. I've seen authors complain that reviewers are leaving negative reviews and they should never leave negative reviews because a book is so hard to write and we don't know what goes into writing a book. I saw a weird take that said that for a 3-star review, you shouldn't be writing like a whole essay. You should be writing like 6 sentences. I even saw a take trying to say that if you get an ARC and you don't write a review, it's theft. And I just disagree with so many of these takes. So let's get into it. For one, a reviewer's job is not to offer a positive review for an author. Yes, books can be hard to write. They can take, some authors will be working on a book for 10 years. Some authors will be working on a book for maybe 10 months. That does not mean that the author is guaranteed to review. It is art, it is a product that we consume just like everything else. Like if I don't like a certain sunscreen or something like that, I will tell people this is not good. Like I used to do reviews for different products all the time, and in exchange for the opportunity to get other products for free. So when I did product reviews, if I didn't like the formulation of something, I would put that in my review. It's the same thing when it comes to books. Yes, books are art, but they're also a product, and at the end of the day, art is subjective. Everybody is not going to like your art. Everybody's not going to like your baby. Even if they're from a similar background to you, there's just things that they may not gel with. So we definitely shouldn't be required to put all these disclaimers, because I've seen the disclaimers a lot lately, and that's looking weird to me. We shouldn't have to put a disclaimer that says this is not about the author, this is not meant to hurt anybody, etc. People are putting in lengthy disclaimers before they even say anything remotely negative about a book, and that's just unfair. You don't have to explain yourself as to why you didn't like a book if you didn't like a book. You're probably already going to do that in your review. So why are we putting all these disclaimers on to hurt an author, to assuage the author's feelings? It just doesn't make any sense to me. They shouldn't even be reading reviews to begin with. So yes, reviews can be good feedback, and I heard there's a debate going around Twitter where it's authors should read reviews, they shouldn't read reviews, because they're oh well, we get feedback directly from the consumer and then we can use that to be better. So a traditionally published author does have an agent. They have usually their critique partners, beta readers, editors. So they do have people providing them feedback. Yes, the best feedback is going to be from consumers, and I do believe that if a lot of reviewers are saying the same thing about the book, it is something to look into, but that's not something I believe that they should go and look for themselves. I believe that that's something that their agent and editor should filter towards them to give them the review feedback properly. They should not be seeking out reviews themselves, and they shouldn't be trying to offer a rebuttal to a reviewer's valid points. That happened to me one time last year. I read a book, and it was a YA book, and I felt like it was written for not the YA audience. There was a lot of stuff in it, old pop culture mentions, old music mentions. The children were listening to CDs. A lot of stuff that just reminded me of my teen years, which were a decade ago. So actually a little bit more than a decade ago. So it just it didn't feel like it was written for the children. It felt like the author wrote for herself and her author friends, and I kind of wrote that in my review. Now, I knew the author followed me on Twitter. I did not widely promote the review. I did post it on my blog. It was up. I did post a link to it on Twitter. Months went by, I didn't hear anything about this. Then the author randomly DM'd me. I was looking on Goodreads and I saw your review and I disagreed with this, and then went into this long explanation. And part of the issue was that for the author, a lot of it was based on her personal life, including like a particular setting in the book was based off of a real life setting in her hometown. And I have another author friend from the same hometown, and she's like, nothing was wrong with your review. She's like, first of all, the setting that they're talking about is not a teen hangout spot. It actually closed because the teens stopped going there a while before it closed. So you're right, like some aspects of that were pretty dated and not for today's audience. And like the author, when she was doing her rebuttal, she tried to sugarcoat it and try to like make it sound like she was just being nice and like, oh, I want you to send you my next book personally, so then you'll see. And it's like, no, you should not be reaching out to a reviewer to kind of dispute their points. And I wasn't the only one who said that about it not reading like it was for the teen audience. That is actually like a big issue right now, and why that a lot of people are writing like something reminiscent of their teen years. They're writing to like relive their teen years, and it doesn't always reflect today's audience. Like I bet if you go to the real life teens and you ask them about some of the stuff they're mentioning, they're not going to be able to relate to it. So I don't believe any author should be up in somebody's DMs trying to explain away their review. As far as the arcs and thefts argument, so no one is technically required to leave a review for an arc. I mean, most of the time when the publisher reaches out to you, they're asking you like if you'll write a review or if you'll do some kind of coverage. Coverage can vary. I do a lot of books by authors of color, and so the best way to get people to read these books is by word of mouth, which means you're gonna actually have to read the book. Yeah, so like, because you can copy the synopsis and paste it, but that doesn't really tell anybody anything about the book. Now what I do is I try not to take on too many arcs, and I don't take on stuff that I have no intention of reading, because I have seen people who will take on a book just because the publisher offered it, and then they'll just like post it on their page and you'll never hear about it again. I think if the publisher gave you the book in a reasonable amount of time to be able to read it, reasonable amount of time being 3 months or earlier than the release date, you can at least try to read it. I mean, life happens, and sometimes you don't get to it. There are times when if I don't get to it on the release date, my review will come out within the release week or the following week. But I'm not just taking on a bunch of arcs just to say like I got the book. I know some people do, because arcs are somewhat of a status symbol, and it does kind of hurt the author, because unfortunately that is a lot of their promo. Like, the publishers aren't taking out big ads for them, so that word of mouth from reviewers is the promo to help for their books. So I think for authors of color, you're kind of hurting them if you're going to take on the arc and then never talk about it. Now, unsolicited, it's whatever. You didn't agree to do anything for it, so you didn't offer anything for it. That's on publisher. And like I said, there are times when you won't get to a book because life, or you might start reading a book and you have to DNF it because it's just not your style. Like, there are books that I've started reading that I was really excited about, that I was talking about, and then if you notice, I never follow up on the discussion about it because I just couldn't get into it. And I don't agree that we need to review every book we receive, because sometimes you don't want me to force myself through that book and give a negative review, because it's not going to be pretty, or my review is just going to say like, it was boring. So why am I going to force myself through a 500-page book just to write that it was boring? I also just don't think like you're able to always write something about every book that you read, which is perfectly fine. I used to write for every single thing that I read. Lately, sometimes I can only get like a couple sentences or two in. There's no particular length that you need to be able to review. It should just be whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you want to express about the book. So I think people need to keep that in mind. Like, we don't have a particular job as a reviewer to do XYZ unless you sign up for one of those teams. And even then, I stopped kind of signing up for those teams because they require a lot out of you. Like, art teams require a lot out of you. Street teams are even worse because some of them don't even promise you the book, so you're just like doing all this free promotion and you're not getting anything in return, and that's a lot of time and commitment. Not everybody can make steady content. Not everybody can review a book in a timely manner. Like, I know a lot of people who don't take on arcs because they're just like, I won't be able to get to it. And I know for indie authors, they kind of get upset when they send out arcs and then they don't hear anything back about it. And I did do that one time with somebody. Like, they sent me an arc and I tried reading the book. I did, but it was so long and I was not entertained that halfway through I just had to DNF, and I felt kind of bad because like I'm like, oh, they could really use the review, but at the same time, my negative review is probably not going to help you as much as somebody who enjoyed the book will. So I try not to take on too many indie reviews sometimes too, because like for debut authors at least, because I know that it might not be fully polished where it needs to be, especially if it's like the first book, and if I'm not going to finish, I'm not going to finish. So let me know what your thoughts are about like the discourse and what reviewers' role is in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk with you guys soon. Bye!